Okay, so let's get started. Um, as always, we can kind of start off with the news. Let me check out the Trello first to see if there was anything big that we wanted to go through today. No. Oh yeah, so we were thinking about, there's already some tech news in there, that's nice. We were thinking about starting a series on programming languages, kind of like every week do a different programming language, what it's good for. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns about that idea, um, drop it in the chat or Discord or Twitch or whatever. So Jared, you're watching the chat?
Yeah.
Perfect. And then we can kind of start going into tech news to kind of kick off. Let's see what's going on. India planning China-style facial recognition. I think I remember reading this one. This one was entertaining. So if you don't know what China's doing, they have like tons of facial recognition, like watching everyone when you're doing anything. So
everyone has a social credit score.
Oh yeah, the social credit score where like if you like help, if you like encourage the government or something, you're more.
Yeah.
And you can apply for things like visas and stuff faster than everyone else.
Or you're not allowed to take the train anywhere.
Oh, you're not allowed to take the train anywhere. Okay, that's kind of scary. And so it looks like India is planning to set up one of the world's largest facial recognition systems so that they can watch everybody all the time. Man, this page has billion ads. Okay. Black market. It's been approved by the Cabinet of Parliament. So I don't know. It looks like a pretty scary, it's kind of crazy thing. Set up one. What up with that comma right there? It's like 1 comma 50,000 CCTVs. Wow. Okay, there's a lot going on in this, so I'll drop the link in the chat if people are interested in looking at it. So that one's exciting. What other crazy news stories are going on? So India's going crazy. Oh yeah, there's the top tech skills. I don't think this one was particularly exciting. Because it really didn't go into like what are specific things. It's just that they're recruiting a lot of new people in tech, and they're using, basically they're not doing much of like the normal interview. They kind of use a bunch of technology to find hires and stuff, which isn't that new or exciting. So I think this one was cool. They were predicting storms out up to 18 months in advance, which is actually a really long period of time. So being able to do it that far in advance definitely gives people a lot to prepare for, especially because I think like, where was the last hurricane? Didn't it like, people were kind of weren't expecting it really?
The most recent one?
Yeah.
About the one up the
I think so, yeah.
Border on the coast. People were expecting it. You know, I mean, they were evacuating.
Oh, okay.
Early. There was a tropical storm that hit Texas actually right after that. People didn't really see coming.
Yeah, yeah. So predicting it is, especially that far in advance, is pretty impressive. That's pretty exciting. What else we got? Oh yeah, self-driving cars in Ohio. Yeah, boy. I personally am.
Automobiles driving around.
No, I have not.
I saw some Google Street View cars
Yeah.
the other day in the area.
Yeah. So this one's kind of interesting. I was kind of surprised with so it says they're giving the, what is it? The Automated Driving Systems Demonstration Grants. It's $7.5 million to Ohio, which doesn't really sound like a lot of money for a self-driving car, because that'd be what? That'd be 10 employees at $100,000 a year for 7 years. That's only 10 employees. So, that'd be 20 employees for 3 years, which doesn't really seem like a lot. I don't know. But that's cool. It's getting started.
I heard that's why they were doing construction on the turnpike.
Is that?
They wanted to test it there, but I don't know if that's actually true.
That'd be fun. I'd drive around with it. Okay. What else we got? What is this? I keep getting like notification things. What is this? Underwater robot could, swimming fish could perform underwater surveillance. So it looks like this looks can flash. Oh, okay. Okay.
Is that real time?
Yeah, 15 times per second and swim about a meter per second.
Tuna
bot.
A meter per second's pretty fast. So, I think that's about like, I guess that's 60 meters a minute. So 0.06 kilometers per minute, and then you multiply that. Okay, that's not the point. So if you don't know where I get all these, they're pretty much all from ACM's Tech News, which they give out Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at 1 p.m. It's my favorite thing to come back to after my lunch break. Instead of doing work, I just read this. Let's see. Oh yeah, Atlas posted some new videos.
Oh, man.
I don't know if you guys have watched those. I really want to pull them up. I'm okay with getting copyright strikes. Atlas. More parkour.
Oh. That's fun.
Wow. Ooh. Doing some calisthenics. Nice. Wow. Beautiful.
It's pretty complex.
Oh yeah. Wow. Okay. Boston Dynamics is scary. Okay. That's the only thing you can say about that. What else? Nope. Okay. And then we're here, and then this. Okay. So I guess we could talk about the hackathon and recap and what we're gonna do now. So I guess I can demo off. So we went to the hackathon. It was a ton of fun. Drank way too much caffeine, had way too little sleep.
It wasn't even that much caffeine.
It wasn't a lot of caffeine for you, John, but then I went out and bought another 2 bangs and then drank those. So I had like easily 700 milligrams, 800 milligrams of caffeine this weekend. Yeah. And then I had 3 hours sleep total throughout the whole thing. 3.
Luck the law.
Yeah. What? What do you want? I'm going to continue
You
with.
extend so much criticism towards me, but
Yeah.
how much do you weigh compared to me compared to the amount that you
It's not the-
consume?
That's the problem. Okay, so OLGA.
So now you're the new
Our project was built by me, and Nick Albany, Jared, Maki, whatever, I'm not doing last names, Josh, Adam, and Brian all contributed to it. And pull up the GitHub page really quick. github.com/CSC UPRC. And that's the first pin one. There's 8 forks for all the various people that have helped. And so essentially, it's a personal assistant. We got to update the README. But it's a personal assistant that you can personalize to do whatever you want. So maybe you don't enjoy talking to your phone all the time. Maybe you just want to have a text interface. Or maybe you want to have some other type of interface, maybe some camera and facial recognition and other stuff like that. We built it with that kind of modularity in mind. So first, we're going to go through and we can look at the first interface we kind of made, relatively simple, is a Discord interface. So first, we can, let's see, it should theoretically be connected to the temperature module. Okay, no, did I spell temperature correctly?
TEMPERATURE.
OLGA TEMPEAR, temperature. Okay, what about, do I actually have that? I think clouds was another one. Clouds, the cloud. What are the commands do we had on this one? It should at least have the hello extension. Okay, I'm not sure which ones. Did it have the calculator extension? Oh, did I even like build this? So basically what you have to do is when you get OLGA, first what you have to do, oh, this is a really garbage one. Okay. First you have to open the correct thing. So I'm going to open folder, open this, and open this one. Okay, let's open the correct version. So that's kind of part of it, is there's so many different versions. What's nice is then what we would do is package each one. But so if we run this one, theoretically it has all the keys needed. Okay, this should be the right one. Calculator. Okay, so as you can see, you can do things like open apps. I don't think it's connected to Jared's Spotify anymore, so we can't spam Jared's Spotify to play through the Fire and the Flames.
Could authenticate it.
Oh yeah, we'll go through that later. But then you can do things like get the temperature, the standard, personal assistant type things. But then let's say maybe I don't want a console interface. Maybe I just want to use hotkeys. So theoretically, this version is built to have that kind of interface. So let's see if it'll run up. And so now instead of opening the calculator by typing in calculator into Discord, now what I can do is press Shift-C, and it has the exact same functionality. So the point that we're trying to make with this is that we can have and still have the exact same extensions on the back. Okay, so everybody who uses OLGA, whether or not I'm using it on my phone, using it on my computer, using hotkeys, using Discord, using voice to text or whatever it is on whatever device, you can still get the same functionality out of it. Now the other thing that we could do, which I'm not going to show here because I don't have a Raspberry Pi and stuff set up, is you could have extensions that then do whatever you want. So we had an extension over the weekend that was essentially a home security system. So again, from any front-end interface, whether it's Discord, your phone, whatever it is, you can then go and do things even as powerful as arming your security system at your house, all the way to getting the temperature and playing your Spotify. So it's built with so much modularity that anybody could come in and build whatever they want, and it'll run with everything else, which is extremely powerful. The last thing we have to, so that was kind of the whole project. We can look at a little bit of the code too, since everyone here has a bit more programming. So what you first run is your build.py file. And what that does is it goes through every extension, and all the extensions then have an install method. And during that install method, we do things like set up config files and make sure that the OLGA core is going to be able to have access to all the different extensions that you chose.
And this doesn't cause collisions at all?
Nope. Well, right now it has no collisions. Potentially, we're going to have to include within this is where what happens if two extensions have the same command. We'll have to include that kind of handling that sort of collision. And then kind of from there, you could also do things like this is where you would probably put having all those setup test files if you're doing some sort of text to intent. So this is probably where every extension would then put up their data for doing machine learning stuff. But so then once you built it, then all you have to do is choose your front end. And the simplest one obviously being the console interface. And all you do is you run the front end, and that instantiates the OLGA core. And now all you have to do is send commands to the OLGA core. It figures out how to handle it with all the extensions and then passes it back. and it passes it back in what we call an OLGA output object. And essentially that's one, it's kind of the mishmash object that has a bunch of different properties within it. So in a console interface, we'd look at that OLGA output object and take the text property and then just print the text property to the screen. If you're in Discord, maybe it has an image property. Maybe you want to display that image. Maybe you're using it on your phone and it has a speech property. We can have it talk back to you, that kind of thing. Or maybe just random sound effects or do other various things. So that kind of gives you that modularity because maybe you don't know necessarily what the front end is going to be able to show. So maybe it won't be able to show an image. So it makes sense to have all those properties getting sent back to the front end, and then from there, the front end figures out how to display it, which kind of makes sense. That's what a front end is. So that's kind of the layout. Really, it's just front ends calling the OLGA core, and then the OLGA core calling all the extensions. And so now I guess we could talk about some of the entertaining, terrible things we had to do to get this working. The favorite, of course, by far, being how to set up the Spotify API. So if we run a command, the first time it has to authenticate it. So if we play Let's Get It On, theoretically, it'll do things. Oh, the token, okay. So first off, to save time of authenticating every time, what we do is we pickle the tokens, the authentication after it's been authenticated, and then we just load it up if it exists. So right now it was trying to grab already expired authentication. So we'll run it again. This time with this, right now it has no authentication. And then we'll wait for it to get back in the chat. Looks good. So now if we do OLGA play, let's get it on. So to authenticate, Spotify then opens a blank web page, but with this beautiful URL, which you then copy and paste into the console to authenticate. You don't actually log in. You just have to copy and paste that long thing. And boom, we're authenticated. And now it's playing on Jared's phone. So, yeah. And then the kicker. We've now just pickled that authentication and then saved it to a file. So that every time you run a command, we unpickle it and then use it.
What is pickling?
So in Java, there's a way you can just store an object. I don't remember what it's called. What is it?
Serialize?
Yeah, serialize. And then, but in Python, it's just called pickling. So you pickle the object.
What? Explain the.
So yeah, so everybody can go ahead and spam Jared's phone to play whatever song they want. No, come on.
Okay.
Can we put it over here by the microphone so
Yeah.
that when people enter a chat command?
I don't. Actually, I treated the Google Assistant. That's not what this is about.
This is not what it's about. Oh, jeez, people are typing.
Boy.
Oh, man. What do we got? Oh, some people are doing it in the terminal. Olga, you have to... There it is. Oh, okay.
That's some death grips.
Yeah, it is some death grips. Okay.
Gotta relax.
What? Human music? What? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Does it matter which channel you're
Nope.
on?
All the channels access it the same way. When you're doing commands, you gotta make sure you do the exclamation point, Olga, before you do it. You have to hit OLGA play.
Yeah.
Yep. When it says several people are typing and everybody's just okay. Okay. Other things we can do. Oh, okay.
This next song takes something that's not that fun, math, and makes it offensive.
You can still do all the other things. Oh wait, you guys could also theoretically spam the open calculator, which I'm kind of surprised nobody did that. And just keep opening calculators on my computer. At least I think it was connected to it. Oh, there it is. OLGA play drop table select. Okay, we're gonna turn off OLGA.
What
No,
if
stop.
I actually
Stop.
did something valuable? Would I get hurt for that?
Dang it, there's so many. Okay, can I? Okay, back to the chat. So yeah, so that's what OLGA can do. Yeah, here's your phone back. Thanks. So that's kind of, and then so the ending of this, we won 3 Raspberry Pi 4s, the 2 gig models. So now we have 8 Raspberry Pis in the Sun Lab. So that's definitely a lot of possibilities there for doing some very entertaining things. So I guess that kind of goes into the next thing, which is talking about the future of where we want OLGA to go and what do we want to do with the Raspberry Pis. Partially because I think they might be related in what we want to do with both of them. It kind of it's a little poetic in a way to have OLGA running on one of the Raspberry Pis that we won. So, any opinions on, I guess before we get into like where we should go, is there anything we like need to do about OLGA before we move on? Because I wrote up a couple things. First off, we should definitely update the README because it's old and outdated, and it doesn't actually show you how to like set it up. We don't have, OLGA doesn't call the init methods for any of the extensions that are written, even though all the extensions have init methods and they definitely could use them. So fixing that would probably be a definite thing we have to do. And then I made one specific build for the hotkeys script, for the hotkey front end and stuff. It might be nice to try and have a specific branch and release for various builds. And then they just keep like merging in from master, and then they do their edits on master from what you merge in from master, and then you just do edits and then release that each time we do a release.
Real quick, when you build a front end, because I only really looked at building an extension.
Yeah.
What do you have to do to build a front end?
Okay, yeah, we can talk about all the things you have to do for each one. So, building a front end, all you have to have is kind of these 3 things. So, you init at the beginning, which creates an OLGA instance. You have to do that. Then, when you're running, you basically have whatever your loop is for continuously doing things. In this case, it's the listener that's doing this continuous loop. And then every time you get a command, you just send it to, so this one has actually a little bit extra. Let me move to the console front end. It's a little easier to look at. So when you're running, in this case, in this one, what we have is you basically loop, and when you get an input, you send it to OLGA. And then OLGA will return an output, and you just have a process output, or however you want to handle it. Really all it is you continually loop, and every time you get a command, you send it to your OLGA instance, and then it gives you an OLGA output object back.
Okay. So
and
however
then,
you want to do that, as long as
yeah, yeah, it's however you want to do it. Just the processing is you have to have an OLGA instance, and then you run commands on it, and then it gives you an OLGA output object back. And from there, you handle it however you want, which is nice. And then for building extensions, which most of us probably already know, but I'll go into it anyways. Where's a good one?
people love
Yeah, the hello one. So the key things, so the install is very important. That's how if you don't write an install that has, you know, what the command is, this is like the key line right here. You write to the commands file the command name, comma, the extension name. And that is how the OLGA core will know what to, you know, look at. When it gets a command, it needs to know what extension to go to. So that's what it uses. So that's why the install is really important. Right now, the init method actually isn't called yet, which is kind of a bug that we should fix, because theoretically, if you have certain code that needs to be run at the beginning of runtime, then that's where you'd want to do it. So things like authentication for Spotify would be nice to do at the beginning of runtime instead of as soon as you call a Spotify command. So,
So I had an idea,
yeah,
and it's probably completely unrelated to the.
then let me finish this.
Okay.
So then the other thing, so there's the install, the init, and then the key thing at the end is the listen command, which is where you know from the listen command that you're basically getting a command from OLGA. So the command's gone from the front end, it's gone through OLGA, and if it's gone to the listen command, you know it's a command that's in your extension. So then you have to handle all the different commands that it could be, which is kind of this last part here, where it's checking what the command is. And then from that, you send back an OLGA output object. And the preferred way to do that is using the make OOO function, which has a bunch of default parameters, and then you set the specific parameters that you want. It's the cleanest way, and it also allows us to make sure that everybody knows what the default parameters are. So that's why we kind of made this factory method for building OLGA output objects. Just so you know when you're making extensions. That's the preferred way to do it because it's the cleanest way, and then everybody knows what all the default parameters are. So,
So, regarding the install method.
Yeah.
Is there any way to streamline that other than having to copy paste every time? Because I believe it might affect code readability in the long run.
other than copy and paste. Oh, you mean for making an install method?
Yeah. Like at that rate, why not just have the whole from installing hello.ext to, I don't know, maybe commands file.write. Why not just have that in the side method that's in the main OLGA?
You mean just the 3 lines of, you really, because the print line is its own thing, it's specific for the extension. So really you'd be able to put like the open file. It's not that much code. It seems like you'd be saving 3 lines to add complexity, which seems like a lot of work.
3 lines per extension.
Yeah, 3 lines per extension to add a bunch of unnecessary complexity seems like a lot of work. Because this seems like really straightforward of open the commands file and write your command to it. It seems like trying to abstract that is a bit too much.
Wait, is the commands file a CSV?
No. Well, kind of. So the commands file is defined in the consts.py. This is kind of a key. This one kind of makes sense to have a const file with the specific naming for all the files. So it goes into a temp folder and then it goes in the .commands file. So at build time, the temp folder is created with a .commands file. And then there's also a .config file for other stuff that people could potentially do other things with. So, yeah. So that's how OLGA works and how you can build whatever you want for it. Because there's so much, because really all it is you pass stuff to OLGA and then it figures it out. So your front ends can be whatever you want. And then your extensions are just like, you got a command and just, do whatever you want with it. So you have a lot of options there. So, yeah. Anything that we should do 100% that we need to do that I can make an issue or request right now for? Other than the 3 things that I already listed? No, that's okay.
Fix Spotify API.
I feel like that's a different issue altogether. Yeah, the Spotify. What? No, we need to rewrite the entire actual Spotify API because
it's open source, so we can just fork it down and make our own.
yeah, we can make our own.
Actually?
Yeah.
Like the mouse, by the way.
Okay. So. Press F to pay respects to OLGA. So. I think that's all I really wanted to do with this. So I can kind of turn this off and then we can, well, I'm trying to think how we can take notes for what we want to do. So I'll use the Trello board because that's easy. So what do we want to do with pies and OLGA? How do we want to go about this? So right now we've been having the Friday night coding. Theoretically, OLGA is kind of a nice project to just kind of keep building on with Friday night coding. So maybe that could be a thing.
I think the modularity in particular lends itself well to whoever wants to pitching in. So you can just work on the little part of that.
Yep. We also have fixing pie farms being a nice thing. Are there any other random projects that people would like to do? Guess OLGA is now Friday night coding.
I was thinking of implementing a sort of text GUI API.
So like the console front end?
Yeah, but basically be able to write directly to it using masked hardware calls instead of doing all this nonsense with Swing or JavaFX or whatever API there is.
So-
Actually, at the very least, it would be for GUI production what Python is for normal programming.
I'm still confused with what you're trying to do.
Easier drafting.
So, what? What?
What is the point? Why use Python instead of another language for a project like
You
this?
use Python because it makes everything easy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
It sacrifices efficiency for the sake of making things
Yeah.
easier to make.
yeah. So
Well,
what do
that's
you
why
want to make?
The ASCII GUI API itself.
You want to make an S? So you want to make a console interface?
Yeah.
Like this?
No, because it's constantly printing things in a linear stream. You
Yeah,
can't go back and edit things.
yeah.
You can't make the console itself go back and edit things. That's the problem.
I think I know.
So you want,
You need it like kind of like any other console app, like say like a package manager.
Yes, that is exactly what
Where
I'm
it's
talking
not like when you try to open up a Python app in the console,
yeah.
you're pretty much stuck inside that Python app until you control C out.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what he's trying to
With
say.
like a bunch of like fancy like escape characters, so like it looks all clean and stuff.
Mhm.
Okay. I could get behind that. I'd use that.
But at that rate, why not just use something that's already been better made, like, you know, the thing that Vim is running off of.
So, improved console interface. So as a definite power user, because that's what I would do. I want a clean, sleek. Is that how you spell sleek?
S-L-E-E-K.
Yes.
Clean, comma, sleek, comma, no wait, no comma.
Pretty formatting in the console. So that okay. Chinese JBound. Submit a new issue. Okay. Any other stuff?
Honestly, I'll probably do the mobile part of it.
Mobile interface.
So wait, you sent it to me on purpose?
Yep. Just so that that you are referenced with it.
Alright, thank you.
As a mobile device user, I want a app on my phone so that
That allows console interface.
I can connect with OLGA without needing some third-party application, like Discord. Okay. And that'll be in there. Submit. Okay. So,
Android OS and Apple would be the only ones I need to care about.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know how many people use Windows Phone anymore. Okay. So that kind of sums up.
Use the Windows Phone.
Huh?
This room actually uses the Windows Phone.
I don't think anyone from the people.
Okay.
Probably like Microsoft employees, because they get it for free. And
Ah.
That's about it.
Well,
Do they?
I have no idea, I'm just speculating.
What about Ubuntu Touch?
Oh.
yeah, open source. Yeah.
Some open source.
Excuse me.
Okay, so I guess that kind of leads. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, doesn't matter. So Raspberry Pis. What are we gonna do with those?
That's a lot of them.
Yeah, we now have 8 Raspberry Pis.
So, PyFarm. You could experiment with PyFarm, with doing multiple computers working on the same task, and then try to optimize the PyFarm program using them to test it.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. Hold on, let me type it out.
Bad idea incoming.
Well, it's from you, so. Was that too harsh?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Here's the.
Yep.
Python is hot garbage in terms of like developer control.
Yeah, okay, yeah. In Python, you have very little actual control of like hardware and what's actually running.
2 words. Import C++.
So you write a C++ module for Python, which is a thing.
I believe it's already a thing.
Yeah.
Python, and it's not really much faster than.
Well, no. You can write modules and then import them in to Python.
Oh, like
which
run
is-
C from Python?
It's not. It's
Yeah,
not about
yeah. So it's like TensorFlow has a lot of already written pre-compiled stuff in C that they then just call from Python, which is why TensorFlow runs fast.
Oh, wait, you mean like low-level memory access and like allocating manually and stuff like that? Oh,
Here's the dealio. Python is good and all, but trying to interface with someone else's work can be kind of difficult when you don't know what type of variable it is. At the very least, having something that forces you to be able to see what type of variable something is at a given moment allows you to interact with it a little better.
Well, any debugger will let you look at it at runtime, what it is. So like when I run Visual Studio and it crashes because I didn't know what it was, I just go and look at what type of object it is and then it tells me what it is. And I'm like, oh, I treated a string as a number. Oh, I'm stupid. Or the person who wrote the other code is stupid, and then I just move on with my life.
Does Visual Studio Code do that for Python?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Scratch everything I just said then.
Okay. I'd like to set up a man-in-the-middle attack.
no, why?
Sounds fun to me. I don't know. Huh?
What is that?
So a man-in-the-middle is we set up a Raspberry Pi as to look like a Wi-Fi hotspot. So you'd give it like an SSID that looks like what people would normally connect to. And then what that does is then that forwards, when people connect to it, it just forwards it to the normal internet. Because then you just connect to the actual Wi-Fi. And so then people connect to yours, and then you just save all their traffic. And then it looks like they're on normal internet, except you've just saved all their cookies. And so now you have you could put keyloggers on it, so you could just have all their credit card information and social security number and email and passwords. It seems like a fun time. Is that, yeah, and then I'd like to just like pull out a USB out of a Raspberry Pi and say, here's the last 3 months of Wi-Fi traffic here.
Joey, don't think of it as federal prison, think of it as a networking opportunity.
Yeah, it's not federal prison, it's a networking opportunity.
I'd say if you decide to do this, it
Yeah.
should have no official affiliation.
No official affiliation
And
with, that seems
you
fair.
can do it on your own time. I don't want to go to jail.
Oh.
There's a lot of
I also
concern
don't
with
want
this.
Oh yeah, there's tons of
Especially-
ethical
Especially
concerns.
if it runs like in the school as well.
Yeah. So,
Maybe,
probs not. That seems, I feel like that covered it. Okay, what other stuff could we do? It could be nice to set up like a Linux. So we have, like, I think there might be just enough space at the end of each row of computers to set up like a Raspberry Pi and stuff. So we could have like Linux stations set up. I think that would be kind of
Yeah, just so
cool.
people can.
Or clean off like the back thing and get rid of like the random garbage computer that no one uses, and just figure out how to set that totally to the side so that people have like Linux stations. Especially since we have like the two kits that are totally like monitor and Pis and stuff all set up.
I've got a question for after the live stream ends.
Okay. So any other stuff that people are interested in doing?
I think that SQL is one of the more popular languages among places that people would end up interning at, so I figure it's useful to go over the basics of SQL.
SQL is one of these programming languages?
Don't believe so. I'm not sure if you can even call it a programming language by default. It'd be like
It's what is it? What's SQL stand for?
structured query language.
You have read.
Structured query language. No, structured query language.
Well, total list. That's a good one. I'm trying to think. What do you guys want the next language to be? What's the at least the first language that you want to go over? We might do more than one language at a time, but also the plan is to have like use an online like compiler interpreter so that everybody can kind of write some code while we're going through it. So
I've
F
always-
sharp. Yeah, I think it's already on here.
Yeah.
You want to do F sharp?
Malbulge.
No.
I've always wanted to learn Haskell and never.
Haskell. Okay, because we could do an F# Haskell
Just
Talk.
functional programming.
functional programming.
Shindig.
Okay. Okay, we can plan on that for the next one.
How about till death?
What? No, I'm talking about normal programming languages.
When's the next meeting?
In 2 weeks. So it'll be whatever that is. So,
15?
okay. Thank you all for coming. See you in 2 weeks. Stop streaming.